Good evening, I'm Jim Axelrod. 4 years, 10 months, and 28 days. That's how long Army Sergeant Bowe Bergdahl had been held captive by the Taliban. But he is free tonight, exchanged for 5 Afghans who had been prisoners at Guantanamo. Minutes ago, President Obama spoke of Bergdahl's release in the Rose Garden.
After nearly 5 years in captivity, their son Bowe is coming home. Sergeant Bergdahl has missed birthdays and holidays and the simple moments with family and friends, which all of us take for granted. But while Bowe was gone, he was never forgotten.
The president was joined in the Rose Garden by Bowe Bergdahl's parents, Bob and Janie Bergdahl. Bob Bergdahl spoke to his son directly, at least partly, in Arabic. The 28-year-old from Haley, Idaho, is described as being in good condition and able to walk when he was handed over to American Special Forces today in an operation that was described as nonviolent. David Martin picks up the story.
The tense handover took place in eastern Afghanistan on the Pakistani border, with U.S. helicopter gunships and surveillance drones hovering overhead. Once on board an American helicopter, Bergdahl wrote out a 2-letter question to make himself understood over the din of the rotor blades. SF, meaning Special Forces? Yes, one of the operators shouted in his ear. We've been looking for you for a long time. Realizing he was free at last, Bergdahl broke down crying. At the same time, officials at Guantanamo Bay in Cuba began the process of releasing 5 Afghan Taliban prisoners to the government of Qatar, a Persian Gulf state which served as an intermediary in the on-again, off-again negotiations with the Taliban. All 5 prisoners were considered too dangerous to release, but could not be put on trial because of a lack of evidence that would stand up in court. Under the terms of the swap, they will have to remain in Qatar for at least a year. The 5-for-1 deal had been on the table for 3 years with little progress, but negotiations, including a phone call between President Obama and the Emir of Qatar, picked up steam in the past week. While the 5 Taliban are making the long flight from Cuba to Qatar, Bergdahl is being examined by U.S. military doctors at Bagram Air Base in Afghanistan, where officials say he could be reunited with his parents via a long-distance video conference. Only hours earlier, President Obama had called to tell them their son was a free man. After medical checkups at Bagram, Bergdahl will be flown to a U.S. Army hospital in Germany, where he will undergo psychological tests following his 5 years in captivity.
At some point, Bergdahl will have to explain the circumstances of his capture. When he disappeared in 2009, officials said he had simply wandered off his base by himself without even a weapon. Jim?
David, what can you tell us about Bowe Bergdahl's physical condition at this point?
Well, we know he's strong enough to walk under his own power from the Taliban who were holding him across some distance to the Special Operations Forces who were waiting for him. We know he could communicate with the Special Operations Forces on the helicopter because he wrote out that question asking him if they were Special Forces. But we've just heard his father say in the Rose Garden with President Obama that his son is having trouble speaking English, which is obviously a language he hasn't had much occasion to speak in the last 5 years.
David Martin at the Pentagon, thank you.